Good morning all of you. In this class I am going to explain you about the stack allocation space. In the previous class we have discussed about the storage organization. In that the runtime memory is divided into total 4 parts. One is the code area, second one is the static area, and third one, fourth one is stack and heap allocation. Stack and heap areas. So here the code and static comes under the memory is allocated during the compile time. Whereas the stack and heap allocations are the stack and heap allocations are comes under during the runtime only. Now in this class I am going to explain you about the first one, that is the stack allocation. Okay. So here in the stack allocation means the main purpose is the stack area is used to allocate space to the local variables whenever a procedure is called. Okay. So all of you know that. So each and every program we are using some functions. So whenever a function is occurred, whenever a function is encountered, then that function variables, that we can call it as a local variable. That local variables are stored in the stack area. Okay. So here almost all compilers for any language we can use procedures, we can use procedures, functions or methods. Most of them are user defined one. Okay. So these procedures we can call. So each time a procedure is called, some space for its local variables is pushed on a stack. So whenever we call any procedure, in that procedure we are using some variables. So we have allocated some space for those local variables. That variables we can call it as a local variable. So allocate space for its local variables. Now this local variables is pushed onto the stack, and when the procedure terminates, the space is popped off the stack. Suppose whenever we call a one function, in that function we are using some variables, some data. So once this data are stored in, we are allocating some space. So that's why we can call it as a local variables. So space for its local variables into the stack. Once the procedure is completed, once the function is terminated, automatically whatever the allocated space is popped off from the stack. So this arrangement has two advantages. The stack we have total two advantages. One is it allows space to be shared by procedure whose durations are non-overlapping. It allows space to be shared by the procedures whose durations are non-overlapping. And also it allows us to compile code for a procedure keeping the relative address of the non-local variables always the same. So here also one more point is, these are the local variables and some are the non-local variables. Whatever the function called, that variables we can call it as a local variables. And second function, variables we can call it as a non-local variables. So in that case also, it allows the compiler code for a procedure keeping the relative address of the non-local variables always the same. So these two are the advantages of the stack. So here the stack allocation is not a feasible, because once we are using the procedures, it is somewhat difficulty to allocate the space. So the following example, take one example. Suppose this is the example. It is a quicksort program. It is a quicksort program. So in this program, it reads 9 integers. It reads 9 integers into an array. It reads 9 integers into an array A1 to A9 and sort them by using quicksort algorithm. That is the input. It reads a 9 integers into an array and sort them by using quicksort algorithm. So this is the code. This is the code. So here in this main function, it takes total 3 actions. The first one is it calls read array. It calls read array function. Next one, set the terminals. So what is A of 0, what is A of 10? Set the terminals. And the third one is call quicksort function or procedure. Call the quicksort function. Okay. So this is about the main function. So here in this program we have some conditions are there. Those are, suppose if the activation of a procedure P calls procedure Q. An activation of a procedure P calls procedure Q. Then the activation of Q must end before the activation of P can end. Suppose like this. Suppose P is a function, again Q is a one more function. Okay. So in P, function Q is called. Once the function Q is terminated, then only once Q is end, then only P is also end. Okay, this is the basic principle. Same way here also, the activation of a procedure P calls the procedure Q. Here the basic thing is, the activation of Q must end before the activation of P can end. So here we have some cases. The first one is, suppose the activation of Q terminates normally. Suppose the activation of Q terminates normally, then automatically the activation of P is also terminate normal way. And the second case, suppose the activation of Q occurs and cannot continue. Then at that time P is also occurs simultaneously with Q. Once Q fails, automatically P is also fails. Okay. Third condition. Here the third condition is, the activation of Q terminates. And Q cannot handle the exception condition. Q terminates and Q cannot handle the exception condition. So in this case, again we have two more cases are there. In that, the first one is, if, see here what is Q? Q is terminates and also Q cannot handle the exception. At that time P, see, if you observe the case 2, what is case 2? Q occurs, then automatically P is also occurs. But whereas in this case, the third case, Q terminates and Q cannot handle the exceptions. At that time, the first one is P can handle the exception. The first one is P can handle the exception. So at that time, the activation of Q terminates and the activation of P continues. The activation of P continues. Need not necessarily be from the calling point. This is the first point. And the second point is, suppose in this case P can handle the exception, whereas in the second case P cannot handle the exception. P cannot handle the exception. Now, the activation of P terminates along with Q. The activation of P terminates along with Q, and the exception is passed to some open activation which can handle it. So these are the conditions for the activation tree. And also here, an activation tree is used to represent the activations of procedures during the execution of the entire program. So the main purpose of the activation tree is to represent the activations of procedures. You know, the function contains some more than one procedures. So the activation tree means we are mainly concentrating on the activations of procedures during the execution of the entire program. During the execution of entire program. Suppose how to draw a activation tree. All of you know that. So tree means root node and children. So here the root node means nothing but the activation of the main function, the activation of the main procedure. That is the root element. And node means represents the activation of procedure. So each procedure represents one node. Each represent one node. But the root node means it is the main function. And the children nodes. Here the children nodes are nothing but the activations of procedures called by the parent procedures. Activations of the procedures called by the parent procedures. That are the children nodes. And generally the activation approach is from left to right only. Approach is left to right only. So this is about the activation tree definition. So in the previous example, so starts with the main program. After that, can enter read array and then leave read array. Enter quicksort, read the values 1 to 9. Enter partition 1 to 9. Leave the partition 1 to 9. Next one, enter quicksort 1, 3. So it is divided to 1, 3. Same way, leave quicksort 1, 3. Enter again quicksort 5, 9. Like that, it is the activations of a previous program. Activations of the quicksort program. Now, by using this one, we can write the activation tree. We can draw the activation tree representing calls during the execution of quicksort program. So this is the main program. M is main program. So initially the main program starts with read array. So read array. And then quicksort 1, 9. So this is the quicksort 1, 9. Next call procedure P 1, 9. So initially it is divided into 4. Okay. So Q 1, 3. Same way Q 5, 9 as per algorithm. 1, 3, 5, 9. Again next to call the procedure P. Again as per the rule Q 1, 0, Q 2, 3. Again this one procedure P 2, 3, 2, 1, 3, 3. Like that. Q 5, 9. Procedure 5, 9. Q 5, 5. Q 7, 9. 7, 9. 7, 7, 9, 9. So in this way we can draw the activation tree for the quicksort program. And the second point is, in the stack allocation, the first point is about the activation trees. And the second point is activation record. So what is meant by activation record? So here, the activation record means nothing but like control stack. Suppose here the procedure calls and returns. The procedure calls and returns are usually managed by a runtime stack. That's why we can call it as a control stack. So control stack means whenever we call a one particular procedure, that is calls procedure, once the process is completed, it terminates. that one return the procedure. So it is managed by the runtime stack. This one we can call it as a control stack. And also each activation has an activation record. Each activation. So activation means nothing but whenever we call one particular procedure, some activation record is there. We maintain some activation record. Suppose if we call 10 functions, then we have 10 different activations records are there. Okay. So has an activation record. This one we can call it as, sometimes we can call it as a frame. The activation record or frame on the control stack. See, with the root of the activation tree at the bottom, I will explain you this one. The root of the activation tree at the bottom. So here, this is suppose this is the tree. Here, the root node represents in the bottom of the tree. For example, this is the root node, like that. Okay, not this one. This is the root node, like that. Bottom top. And the entire sequence of activation records on the stack corresponding to the path in the execution tree to the activation. See, if you take this one, the activation. So here, this one we can call it as the activation record. This activation record contains a total 7 parameters are there, 7 fields. So here, the control stack with the bottom of the stack higher than the top. The bottom of the stack higher than the top. See, generally, we can represent like this. The activation record that appear lowest on the page or actually closest to the top of the stack. That means this one is the top of the stack, lowest one is the top of the stack alphabet. So in this activation record we have total 7 fields are there, 7 parameters are there. One is the actual parameter and the second one is the return value. Third one is the control stack. Fourth one is the assistant link. And fifth one is the saved mission status and local data, and the last one is the temporary. So whenever we call a procedure, in the background some activation record will be running. So the activation record contains these 7 parameters. Okay. Now in that the first one is the temporary values. So the name itself is a temporary value. Suppose take one block. In that block some mathematical expressions are there. So that mathematical expressions are stored in a particular variable. In that variable we can call it as a temporary variable. We can use that block only. So evolution of expressions in cases where those temporaries cannot be held in registers. Only in that function only we can use the temporary value, and these values cannot be used to the other functions. And the second one is the local data. What is meant by local data? Suppose suppose take function name is A. In function name A, whenever we call the function name A, parallelly it runs one activation record. In that activation record contains total these 7 fields. In that 7 field, one field is local data. Local data means nothing but the function A having some variables are there. That variables we can call it as a local variable. So local data belonging to the procedure whose activation record this is. And the next one is the saved mission status. This field, saved mission status means, so here it stores information about the state of the mission just before the point when the procedure is called. Once the procedure is called, till now what is the mission status? that will be stored in this field, saved mission status. And the next one is the ASYS link. So it is an optional link. It is not compulsory. We may or may not use this option and use this link, ASYS link. So it is needed to locate data needed by the called procedure but found elsewhere in another activation record. It is an optional field. And very important point is control link. This is very important field, control link. So this control link means it is pointing to the activation record of the caller. So it links one activation record to the another activation record. So link between one activation to another activation record. So how it will be linked means with the help of the control link field, controlling field. And the return value. Here the thing is return value. So here the return value means which holds the values returned by the called procedures. Return value holds any values returned by the called procedures. And these values can also be placed in register depending on the requirement. So return value means nothing but once the called procedure return, it generates some value. That information is stored in this field. And the actual parameters. So whenever we call a function A, so A having some parameters. That parameters information is stored in this field. So used by the calling procedure are stored here. Okay. So this is about the activation record. So for each and every function, it generates one activation record. In background, it generates one activation record. In that activation record, total 7 fields are there. One is actual parameters, return value, control link, ASYS link, saved mission, local data, and temporary values. So each and every information about particular procedure, particular function, that information is stored in that particular activation record. So this is about the second point, activation record. And this is the example. So first one, this is the main program. And the second one is R is activated. What is a read array? So main R. R is activated. That means read array. And the next one is apply the quick sort. See, R has been popped and push Q1,9. So Q1,9. So R is removed and push Q1,9. Next one, Q1,9 is P1,9, 1, 1,3, 1,9, 1,3. Like that, we can generate the activation record. Okay, activation record. And the third point is calling sequences. Suppose A in function A, we can call the function B. So here, this one we can call it as a caller, and this one we can call it as a calling. So this is a caller function, and this one is a calling function. Now, so here the calling sequence means here the values communicated between the caller and the callee are generally placed at the beginning of callee's activation record. Okay. So whatever the communication between the caller and the callee are generally placed at the beginning of the callee's activation record. That means in the B. Because A is a function. A have one activation record. B is also a function. So B has one more activation record. So in that activation record, it stores the information about the caller and callee values. And also here, it has pixel length items. And also the item whose size may not be known early enough are placed at the end of activation record. And the third one is we must locate the top of stack pointer. We must locate the top of the stack pointer. Here, it is a common approach is to have it point to the end of pixel length fields. So this is about the calling sequence. In this, the main point is values communicated between caller and callee generally placed at the beginning of the callee activation function. Okay. And see. So this is of the division of task between caller and callee. Suppose this is one activation record and this is another activation record. So this one we can call it as the callee's activation record, bottom one, and this one is the caller's activation record. So in this callee's activation record, we can take the parameters and return values, controlling temporary and local data. Same way here also, in this activation also, take the parameters, temporaries and local data, controlling parameters and return values. So what is the purpose of the control link? It links one activation to another activation record. So this is linked to this one. Again this one linked to previous one, like that. So these are the caller's responsibility. Okay. And a typical calling sequence can be described as follows. Okay, this one. Suppose this is the caller activation record and this is the callee's activation record. So in these cases, what are the actions in callee's responsibility and what are the actions performed on the caller's responsibility? So here the first one is the calling sequence. So in this, the first one is caller evaluates the actual parameters. The caller evaluates the actual parameters. And the second point is the caller stores a return address. Caller stores a return address and the old value of top of the stack into the callee's activation record. The callee saves the register values and other status information. Here in this case the callee saves the register values and other status information. And the last one is callee initializes its local data but begins the execution. This is about the calling sequence. Whereas the return sequence is, the callee places the return value next to the parameters. The callee places the return value to the next parameters. Using this information, like mission status field, the callee restores top and other registers. Though the top stack has been decremented, the caller knows where the return value is relative to the current value of top. The caller therefore may use that value. So these are the calling sequences and return sequences. So in this way, we can allocate the space in stack allocation. Okay. So in the stack allocation space, first we have discussed about the activation tree, and the second one is activation record, and the third one is calling sequences.